vintage stereo restorers and appreciators. This is another one of these vintage Kenwoods, and I've done quite a few of these over the years. The Kenwoods, there were a lot of them made just like Yamaha's, Sensui's of the classic golden age, you know, the mid 60s to the late 70s. But you know, we're at the point now, and I mentioned this in other videos, you can't just fix one of these and hope it keeps going. Now this one I actually bought on eBay. It was sold as not working. It was a bid type of auction. Nobody bid against me. The opening bid was $49.99, which is plus shipping and everything. I mean, it was almost $150 to get it to me. But these are worth it. Now the thing about it is, this one in the photos, this faceplate, all I did was clean the knobs. A little wipe on the faceplate. Really very mint faceplate. The back of the amp, the jacks and everything on it were really clean. And this is the original lid with the original paint job. I don't know if you can see in the background. I was going to paint it. I just decided to use some car wax on it because most of them I end up painting, they're so scratched and faded. This one was kept in a dry place, not a sunny place, no tobacco. But it's still, after 50 some years, it needed quite a bit of work. And at this point, if you're going to listen to these in your system as a daily driver, so to speak, you really need to do a lot. And I'll just kind of give you a quick run through of the parts. Of course, the first thing is to recap the whole thing. I did an earlier video where I talked about stuffing the caps here, an easy way to stuff them. So I did that. Interestingly enough, in the headphone jack was this when I got it. I don't know. There's quite a few. I'm just going to pour them out here. Quite a few parts. Kind of represents a cross-section what was done to it. One of these outputs, the original two SD180s, the NECs, was blown. The other three tested okay. I didn't have one to match. Their 2N3055s is the best match, and they're very reasonably priced. 4 new output transistors, same brand, same lot number. Match them on my meter. That's the way to go. New dial lamp. I actually put in an LED one, but with the same type of socket. And here's some of the things that we've talked about in the past. The little bias pots. There's actually 6 trim pots in this amp for different purposes. All of them, I don't know what it is about these that were originally put in here. It's the weakest part of the amp. They hardly turn. Even if you try to clean them, they're kind of unsteady and also thermally sensitive. If you hold a soldering iron just like a ½ inch away, you can actually watch the value change. So I replaced them with these sealed pots, the high quality ones. The original diodes, there's some oil caps in here. And small caps, big caps. This one had quite a few of the C458 noisy transistors. Quite a few. Most in the preamp board. So there were 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those. And what were the others? I know I put a few in here. They're metal can. Oh, here they are. These small metal can ones, 2SC 984s. Those are usually pretty reliable, but you might as well replace them for the price of new transistors. And I use metal can 2222s in that circuit. Better heat dissipation. There were a few resistors in the power circuit. These caps here, these are some kind of polyester type of cap, early ones. These were actually, there's a network in the output section, and these actually really go off value easily. They're supposed to be 0.22, and I found they're almost half that value at best when I tested them. I don't know what it is about these. Maybe they take on moisture. But you can see some diodes in the bias circuit. As I go through the stages, I test each stage. I have these pink rose-colored capacitors. They're the German ones, the Worth Electronic. Really like these, and they're 6,000 hour caps, 105 degrees Celsius, and they have a great reputation. They're as good as Nishikon's, Panasonic's, and right now they seem to be better priced, especially if you buy in a fairly large lot. So really, at 50 some years, we're talking about this is a very serious upgrade. Then there's all the little niggly problems you get. These thermistors, there's one for each channel. One of them, the lead was broken off right where it's in the thermistor. So that channel, you couldn't set the bias. It was running at over 300 milliamps of bias, cooking hot. That was just something with age. So I was actually able to reattach it, shrink wrap it, make sure it's stable. There's all those little things you discover as you go through it. But what you end up with, these have a beautiful sound, very similar sound to the Sansuis of the era. And they can run for hours and hours. They don't get that warm. They're an amp that you can have very little listener fatigue. And some of the ways that it's made, and they just don't do this anymore. These are all individual controls. They're not soldered on a circuit board. And you lube them up with some control cleaner and lube. Just so nice, turns so nicely. They're full-size pots. Each one's individually mounted. You can desolder them. You don't have to take 3/4 of the unit apart. But these rarely fail. The only weak part is the speaker power switch. They would dry out and then people would force them and they go bang and break. You need to get a little bit of lithium grease in there, just so it turns smoothly, and then a general cleanup. So this one, I'm ready to audition it in my main system for a while, but there's quite a bit of work. If you look at all the components I changed, there's a couple hundred solder connections. And as I went through the boards, these were not wave soldered, if you're familiar with that. These were soldered by hand, and some of them are spectacular, beautifully done. This one was not. I found cold solder joints. Some leads were sticking straight up in a hole. You could wiggle them around. There's hardly any solder. It's amazing it actually worked. It actually did still work after all those years. Anyway, thank you for watching and listening.